Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am YamatoCannon coming at you with AMA number 16, 16, 15, AMA number 15. Damn, getting ahead of myself. If you want to ask a question, ask on Discord or the YamatoCannon subreddit or the Patreon. Still no spicy food. I have ordered some spicy sauce and we're gonna do a challenge for the next AMA, hopefully, if it arrives on time. God bless the UPS, DHL and whatever drivers. Thank you very much for your services during these trying times. Let's get into your questions. I'm sure they're gonna be hilarious because G2 lost against Mad Lions. Waterman person asks, do you think G2 can be improved with a roster change? Considering for playstyle, personality and language barrier, and if so, which players would you bring in? Keep in mind this question was asked 6 days ago. So 6 days ago, it's before the match. But after that match, naturally you would say, yeah, just bring in Karzi or bring in Reckless and maybe the team would improve. But I wouldn't be so quick to make that judgment. They are still experimenting, and in a lot of cases they exceeded everyone's expectations, and then that became the expectation. They dropped the ball against Mad Lions, Caps was running it down. I think still this alteration of G2 still has a lot to give, and I don't think that we are in a point in time where you want to rush to make massive changes. So let's just be patient. Nigel Bro asks, now the Spring Split is almost finished, what are your thoughts on the Caps Perks role swap? Also 6 days ago. Like a regular split, it worked, right? Perks, fantastic mid laner, played super well, played many different champions. I think he is very, very meta resilient. He is the most well-rounded mid laner that we have in Europe. He played decent against Mad Lions. Caps in AD carry, in regular split, honestly, he did a lot of good things and also things that are memorably bad, like that Aphelios game against Misfits. But I think overall he was good, especially the first weeks. Like, everyone was surprised by how good he was. He was abusing Senna. Sure, there was a lot of Talia gameplay too. He had moments of yeah, he does well. There was always a big problem in G2's lane phase. There was always occasionally one big slip up where they lose summoners or they give up a kill, and they got away with a lot because of how good G2 was in general. We need to define success if we think about it. The key success here that G2 wants to take away from this is to make sure that the game is as fresh as possible for them and that they change the dynamic. They analyze the problem that a lot of teams run into after their first year, coming into that second year. Keeping that same dynamic, it is sometimes difficult to grow out of it, and Caps into the AD carry keeps it refreshing for everyone. And now, if they want to ever switch back Perks to AD carry and Caps into mid, that is also going to be refreshing again. So I think that the main idea still is there for G2. They are thinking long term, they're thinking about bigger picture things than just the Spring Split. They're thinking about the whole year, and that is what they are revolving their decisions around. If they wanted to storm Spring Split, they would have a completely different approach. They are having an approach where they come into the World Championship and international tournaments with as much vigor and power as possible. So we have to pay attention and see if this pays off in the long run or if it's going to bite them in the ass. I still think it is, it makes sense as a decision. GLG Misclick asks, what do you think are typical personalities for pros in their specific roles? Top, jungle, support, etc. So this one is highly anecdotal. Okay, it's very, very anecdotal, but top laners tend to be very assertive. I think naturally top laners need to draw attention to themselves because the role relies on jungle and a lot of other factors in a lot of cases. They need to understand what they need to pick. Otherwise, it is top lane is probably the easiest role to get screwed over in the hardest. It's top lane is the role where you can lose your lane the hardest as well. So you need to be assertive to be a good top laner. Jungler, a lot of junglers that I've worked with tend to be, best of the best tend to be patient, because everyone expects so much from you, and everyone kind of drags you around sometimes and want your affection, your love, so they need to be patient. Mid laners tend to be the craziest. Mid laner tends to be the craziest because I think it's the most difficult role to figure out because it's so delicate and the responsibility is so big. So the best of the best mid laners tend to be, you know, a bit wild, a bit wilder than usual. They tend to be like crazy in some shape or form. It's always like that with the highest level of artists, right? The highest level of artists, comedians, or whatever you can think of that is very expressive and comes down to skill and talent. They always come from like, you know, insane backgrounds, and they have like a sense of craziness about them. I'm not thinking about the negative type of crazy, just something unique about them, right? That's usually what I see in the best of the best mid laners. AD carries tend to be, you know, from experience, you know, this is completely anecdotal. I want to put this in there. This is not something that, you know, I 100% agree with or anything. I'm just saying from experience, this is where these roles lean into. I want to make that clear, super clear, because, you know, someone's going to use this against me. AD carries tend to be a bit more on the shyer end, you know. They play the role, they don't tend to talk that much, which is natural, you know. Your role is very mechanically intensive and you are judged by how well you always maneuver yourself mechanically, right? Supports tend to be very nurturing, you know. They tend to be very nurturing because the role in itself usually set up others for success. But this is, you know, this is all very wishy-washy and bullshit. This is not something that I would ever, you know, use as facts in anything. This is strictly anecdotal. MGMR asks SS. Hey Yamato, love your content. Who is the best ADC in LPL with Uzi not currently playing, in your opinion? Uzi is a freaking monster, honestly. Uzi is really great. Last year there was some competition for him. I think Jackie Love as an AD carry is a bit underrated because he does a lot of dumb shit. Like, he does dumb shit in the sense that he gets caught, but mechanically he is still one of the best AD carries in the world. Just decision making needs a bit of work. We saw it at the World Championship. LWX has been crazy good. I feel like LWX is very inconsistent, but his consistency, like, work over periods of time. For example, at Worlds last year during groups, he was honestly quite trash. But then in the run where they had to, you know, where they had to win the best of fives, he was crazy insane. He was really good, and in my opinion the best AD carry at the tournament after, you know, after his group stage. Like, his group stage performance was honestly dreadful. And same thing can be said for LWX at the beginning of the split. When they were playing with Khan, they were losing, and I think LWX was legit running it down. But then after the break now, LWX is smurfing again. So he's like inconsistent over like larger periods of time. Maybe it's something that is of choice, because he seems to be super good when it really matters. I recall LWX playing against like Uzi during the best of 5 that they played against RNG, and I felt like Uzi and Ming were the better bot lane in the best of 5, where FPX won. It was just FPX as a team operated at a higher level, because this is something that RNG has struggled with since forever. Jahu is not the greatest when it matters the most, and they seemed across the board very strange. Like, it didn't seem like RNG knew how they wanted to win games. So Uzi, super strong. The person that I want to give credit to is Wink. E-Star's Wink, I think he is super insane. Plays every champion at a very high level. Plays the APs that we might not have seen from the other AD carries that we mentioned. People might ask if Puff belongs here, but I don't think so. I think he is weaker than these players that we've mentioned, but I think Uzi, LWX, and Wink are definitely in the conversation for who's the best. If I had to choose, gun to my head, difficult to not say. Like, honestly, I want to lean towards Wink over LWX, because the difference there for me is the fact that he indeed plays APs and bottoms, but Wink is less experienced than LWX, and I think if someone told me that LWX is the best one right now, I would be like, yeah, that's fair, you know, that's okay. We'll have to wait and see for Jackie Love's return now to top esports, how good he's going to be. Kentucky Fried ADC, who do you think will finish first in LCS Summer Split? LCS Summer Split? Honestly, wouldn't be surprised if Team Liquid does. Maybe they bounce back. Depends on what kind of changes they do in the off-season now and how they figure it out. But I think the odds will definitely be good for Team Liquid, and that's where you want to put your money if you want to cash out. You know, I think everyone's gonna think C9 is gonna win, EG is gonna win. You know, I think Team Liquid's gonna bounce back. Mr. Turbo Ice, you did amazing at casting. Love you, man. Do you plan to improve your own one-word combat vocabulary though? Oh, yeah. Mother. Jozo's heavily discussed topic at the moment. Do you think the game would be better without stopwatch? Stopwatch is not something that I see that often anymore. After the nerfs, people tend to go to other runes. So honestly, just remove it, because I think it's either way too OP or it's way too bad. So there's no balance. Sintemis asks, hi Amaro, what do you think happened to Jackie Love, and do you think he'll be re-signed by another team? Kapalol asks, how do you beat C9? I think C9 have been very greedy in the way they've been drafting. Maybe they've been hiding things coming into playoffs. They lost a game against Team Solo Mid. I think the way you want to approach C9 is, I think you want to play heavy for the 2v2 mid lane. I think Licorice has been very solid throughout the split. I think, you know, sure, there are some arguments to be made for Ssumday being the better top laner. I can get behind that. Bottom, I think, has been a massive strength. From the lens of EG, right? Let's say EG faces them. I think they have good odds because their 2v2 mid lane is going to be better. Their matches against C9 were lost within 3-4 minutes because they took a skirmish that was terrible. So if EG can get their nerves in check, I still think that Jizuki is a better mid laner than Niski. And if Niski can't play in a way where he gets to push and impact the map, which he is allowed to play against a lot of the other mid laners in North America, then I think C9 will actually have a challenge. But the key thing about C9 is macro-wise, they also seem to be on point, so you need to be able to match them on this part too, and there's no secret to it. You just have to be able to play on tempo properly, play on fog of war properly, and also play to your strengths properly, right? So you need to be a strong team, and I think the way you attack them is through that 2v2 mid lane, because I think Blabber still can be a bit reckless when it comes to choosing the fights in the mid lane. SybX asks, hey Amaro, I need relationship advice in a sense. I'm into this girl and she's into me too, but we cannot see each other at the moment because of the virus. I cannot stop thinking about her and it is distracting me from my research and other uni projects. What would you do? Well, it is very important that, you know, especially with young love, it's very normal to, you know, forget about all your other responsibilities. You put all your energy and effort into one thing because it is so intoxicating. You know, it is like a drug. You want to chase it, and that's the only thing that is satisfying, especially, you know, at the early stages of your relationship. You need to keep in mind that it's important that you hang on to these other responsibilities because they're going to affect you very, very much long term if you drop the ball on them. You know, you need to step away from your mind and not act too impulsive. And even through the coronavirus and you guys being separate, there are still things to do in order to keep that spark alive and make it even more exciting for the time you finally meet. You say you're into her, you say she's into you. Do phone calls, send her letters, send her, you know, you can send her things. You can find ways to be romantic. You can find ways to keep the fire going and build up for the perfect reunion, so to speak. It's very important that you don't let go of everything else, because if you fail your projects, if you fail your research, you will begin to despise and build hatred. You know, you will begin to fester on something that you don't want to latch onto. You never want to be in a position where your relationship was the reason for something that you wanted to do didn't pan out as you wanted it to do. You don't want to build resentment, so it's important that you keep doing what you want to do, because in the end, within a relationship, you can only love your partner if you love yourself. So don't forget about yourself and what you want to do. If it's meant to be, then it's meant to be. Find ways to be romantic, call each other, fall asleep on the phone together, send letters, send flowers, pick flowers and leave them at the door. You know, it's quite empty and the sun is starting to show up. there are ways to keep it very exciting, and the best thing you can do is plan for the time where you can reunite. Be the best version of yourself and make sure that the relationship is the best version of itself by the time the coronavirus calms down. That's the best thing you can do. Best of luck to you, my friends. All the best. Obi-Int Kenobi asks, do you have personal or second-hand experience with mental health issues? If so, what helped you or other people? I've had personal experience with depression. What helped me is, you know, I'm a person, I'm very addicted to progress. I'm very addicted to being effective. You know, I am constantly moving forward, which makes it very difficult for me to enjoy any type of achievement. Like whenever something happens, I just look, what's coming next? What's coming next? I constantly want to move. And when I find myself in a state, in a part of my life where things are not moving forward, I tend to be very, very unhappy with myself, and that's when it becomes the hardest. Especially because in my line of work, you are not allowed to show any weakness as a coach. You know, as a coach, you cannot ever show any weakness. You need to be the pillar of leadership. Your teammates and your players and everyone around you need to look to you to strength. So you cannot show any weakness, right? And it's difficult because I've learned my entire life to deal with it myself. And the thing that helps me in these times is very simple things that make me feel and see progress. Like sometimes during those times, I tend to clean a lot because I just see some kind of movement in front of me. You know, I see something moving, I see something changing, I see actual progress. And as silly as it might sound, you know, Jordan Peterson says, you know, clean your room, you know, there's a lot of power to it, and it has helped me a lot. And this might not work for you or for everyone else, because I do think mental health issues manifest themselves in other people very differently, and I am not in a position to, you know, give advice that is going to work for everyone. The only thing I can say is, you know, everyone's unique in their own way, and the way we have to deal with our problems is also going to be different. And in my run-ins with players that have experienced these issues, it has come down to figuring out what works for them, and that can be very different or widely different from person to person. And if you are struggling with anything, I recommend you to get help from professionals. I think there is no shame in it, even if you're not suffering from like mental health issues. You know, it's like our mind. We have a mental diet, we have a diet for nutrition, and we also have a mental diet, you know, and for some it's worse, for some it's better. And I think psychologists and psychiatrists can help even healthy people and unhealthy people. It's just the same way exercise works for everyone, either if you're unhealthy or healthy. It's like mental nutrition, and I think there should be no shame at all in seeking help in this, the same way someone have a personal trainer in the gym, you know. So I hope and wish everyone the best. King asks, do you think Team Solo Mebdi could beat this version of Vitality? Stronzi, man. We would smack everyone, we would win worlds. Odin asks, with Team Liquid's failure in Spring Split, a lot of people speculate coaching staff change in the summer. If given the offer to be the head coach of Team Liquid, would you take it? It would be strategically bad for me to answer this question, but it is a very exciting project. Angel Delacroix, after seeing OG split and playoff against Fnatic, do you think it could have been different for them if they signed someone like Jizuke? I respect Nuktak, but after seeing Jizuke's performance on Tilia Game 4 vs Fly and his performance and growth in Spring Split, I think it could have been the missing piece for OG to match Fnatic OG2. Well, I think, you know, I've been saying for the longest time that Jizuke is going to be one of the best mid laners that the West has. I said at the beginning of any LCS, I said that he's the best mid laner in North America, and he's going to show everyone why unless his team holds him back. I think at the beginning of the split, I think his team held him back in terms of how they were drafting, and now finally everyone on EG is on the same page. Bang is playing out of his mind. Jizuke is also playing the game he wants to play. If I was in Vitality, I would have kept Jizuke. I would have kept Jizuke because he was, in my opinion, the strongest asset on Vitality, and they messed up by letting him go. For Origin are using Nuktak in a very specific way. Nuktak is a very strong player and a lot of people underrate him. He is taking on a role on Origin that is very, very, you know, it's a dog role. It's like his most played is tanks, and, you know, he's playing a lot of freaking Soraka and whatever, you know. I think Nuktak is a chameleon. He can play many different champions, and I think it's just the role that OG pushed him into. If Jizuke was in that same position, I don't think Jizuke would be very happy, and I don't think Jizuke would fit. I think this is a choice that OG have made. Costello asks, do you think Fnatic tried to hide some bot lane picks by playing Senna only, or they just really overrated the pick coming into first playoffs game? And do you think that Senna is still a good champion after old enough? Because I think there are better picks which Fnatic could have gotten. Yeah, for sure. They played Senna 4 times. Like, they died 2v2 on bottom. They played the Trundle. They definitely just wanted to keep as many cards as close to their chest. The Senna Zilean looked pretty nasty because Zilean is pretty OP as a champion, in my opinion, when he gets to farm. Senna was a good way to do that. We don't know how good Senna Zilean is as a lane, because we saw it against Ezreal Yuumi twice, and Ezreal Yuumi is not a strong lane. It's like a safe lane that scales super good. So it's a strong lane, but it's not like, oh, I'm gonna fuck you kind of lane, you know. It's not like a powerful lane phase that is going to like insanely do well. That's it for AMA number 16, I believe. If you have any questions, ask it on the Discord, ask it on the YamatoCannon subreddit, or ask it on the Patreon. This was it. We're heading into LEC playoffs week number 2. This week we're going to review Origin versus, not Origin, I mean G2 versus Mad Lions. We're gonna do it on stream, and then hopefully, if we have time, we'll squeeze in maybe a Polish stream, maybe a Swedish stream, maybe a German stream, maybe an English stream. Oh, wow! If you made it this far in the video, bless you and bless your face. Take care, mother flippers.